go to Lower tomorrow, and I've got a little grandson, his name is Rush, and he was gonna get a haircut today, and he said if I'd get home before he went to bed, I'd get to see his haircut. So if y'all don't mind me slipping out, I'd like to do that.
One question. I was looking at your statement of economic interest here, and it said you made $2.3 million off the state of South Carolina last year. Can you answer where that came from?
Yes, sir, if you'll let me look at that, I'll tell you.
Sure.
I have a law practice, and we have 13 or 14 lawyers, depending on who is on maternity leave. In our group, we have wonderful women, and so depending on that. And my ethics form, I think, speaks for itself. We had 22 clients that we represented before our firm, before the implied consent hearing. We had 115 clients that we had workers' compensation cases for. I don't do workers' comp, and I don't do implied consent, but our firm does that.
Sure.
And then we had 32 cases where our firm represented the Department of Transportation on condemnation cases.
Mm-hmm.
And I have represented the Department of Transportation, and I've got 2 other lawyers that are in the firm that do some of that work. And then the state of South Carolina was sued by Standard & Poor's.
Yeah.
Okay. And so let me tell you what happened. Standard & Poor's is, a rating agency. And what was happening in America was Standard & Poor's was being sued by states on the issue of unfair trade practice acts. There has been 17 states that had filed lawsuits. They sued South Carolina. We were the only state, or the first state, that they sued, and they sued South Carolina on a federal declaratory judgment action saying states don't have standing to bring lawsuits against Standard & Poor's. Okay? I handle complex litigation. And what I do, and I have done, is I've represented the state of South Carolina on complex litigation. So I got a call from the Attorney General, as I've represented 6 Attorney Generals, and they said, John, we've been sued by Standard & Poor's, and we've got to file an action in federal court within 10 days. Will you help me put a trial team together and do that? And so I, along with 2 or 3 other firms, if my memory serves me correctly, started defending that suit. And as a result of that, we were able to defend the suit, and then we were able to collect from Standard & Poor's for suing South Carolina over $22 million, I think. So they sued us. We got a net return to the state of $22 million. And so that represents that part of the case. And so I'm really...
What I'm curious about is the
well, let me finish my question, if I could, Robbie.
Sure.
And so I was proud of that, because what they did is they sued us, and then we were able to get a net fall into the general fund of a little over $22 million.
Sure.
Okay.
But the South Carolina versus Ortho McNeil Jansen, that's the one that where $1.125 million was awarded to your law firm or whatever.
Now, that's not on that disclosure, is it?
Yes. Well, that's the one where they sued them for $136 million. It's Johnson & Johnson's pharmaceutical company.
I think you got that wrong.
Okay.
Let me explain that case to you.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. But that's not on that disclosure, is it?
No, that's something else I looked up. That was
Okay, but
awarded
you
to
asked me about what was on the disclosure.
Well, okay.
And so and that's not on there, is it?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
That's something I thought you were
All right.
involved in.
I'll be happy to tell you about that.
Sure.
I'm proud of it.
Sure.
Pharmaceutical companies in America are great. Johnson & Johnson is a fan of mine because they sell No Tears shampoo. And what happened is I represented the state of South Carolina against Johnson & Johnson. The case started in 2009 and went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe they filed in 2007. I believe the
Maybe it was.
statute of limitations is 3 years, yet they awarded the penalty 8 years later, which was, on that particular case, there's like a 3-year window.
All right. Okay.
I'm trying to make sense of that.
Well, listen, there's case law on that I could come in and stack up the table there, and
This is
so
just the amendment, by
I
the way,
was
sorry.
involved, I was involved in that litigation. In fact, and in being involved in that litigation, you know the $1.3 billion surplus we talk about?
Mm-hmm.
That $126 million of that $1.3 million came from the Janssen case that went into the general fund of South Carolina.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's where it
Well,
went.
that helps the state. What about the people spending money on medications that now have to pay for that because the companies now?
Okay, no, you're talking about two different things there, Robbie, and we can have that discussion, but I ran into a lady over in Greer the other day. She's a retired nurse,
Yeah.
okay? And we have something in South Carolina called the formulary.
Yeah.
And we also have something in South Carolina with the drug companies called drugs that are still within the patent.
Yeah.
Johnson & Johnson, not Johnson & Johnson, another pharmaceutical company the other day took one of the drugs off the formulary, and one of my constituents now has prescription drugs at $900 a month, okay, where she was only paying $100 a month.
I pay a lot.
That's, okay, that's the sort of thing. And listen, if you will look at the opinions on the Supreme Court, Justice Kittredge, in the opinion on Johnson & Johnson, said, and he is a very conservative jurist,
Yeah.
but he said in that case, he said, Johnson & Johnson ought to be ashamed of themselves for what they did to the people in South Carolina.
Yeah.
He said that. Have you read it?
No, I just read this is just the amendment I printed out, by the way. You had another one this is the amendment to your.
Okay, well,
original. Sorry,
I'm trying to answer your question, but
Okay.
Johnson & Johnson's not on that.
Yeah, no, that's the
Okay.
wrong copy of that.
Thank you.
I think just quickly, Alice has a question, and then Doug has a question, and that will be the only two we have time for.
All right.
Mine is sort of a question, but it's also a statement of personal experience. My experience with Mr. White is that he works with many, many families and individual clients and does
Well, I'm not
wonderful,
saying he's bad. I'm
caring
just wondering.
work for them, as many of those cases as the other cases. And in our case, he represented my brother and my family, and he literally saved their lives.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, I understand
And
that.
so I just want people to know that he does many different kinds of law, and I am eternally grateful for his skill and that he has all this experience.
Well, he had to be good to
because
do this. I mean, this is a
He's
good
all
lawyer.
about helping
So it's,
families and people,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to bring that up, thank you.
The other thing I would say to you, Robbie, is this. I mean, there is an independent, non-lawyer group that's looking at this, and all of this is approved by court orders and open courtrooms and the documents for anybody to go and see.
yeah.
And so, you know,
I spend like $500 a month on medications, and I'm just wondering if that had any, like.
no,
if
sir,
they saw the
no, sir,
cigarette hub.
it didn't have anything to do with it, because in that case, what the court found is that the company made over $33 billion. Their R&D only cost about $5 or $6 million,
Yeah.
and in that particular case, they paid over $500 or $600 million just in their lawyer fees to defend it.
Yeah.
It was, so,
Yeah,
listen, let me tell you this. Bringing lawsuits for the state of South Carolina is a wonderful thing. And we've got to have that ability to be able to do that. Because listen, ethics has got to be in business too.
Yeah.
And if we hadn't had the debacle with the big banks and the hedge funds and all these other things, we wouldn't have had the problem we had in 2008 and 2009. So, you know, ethics starts, you know, ethics is just not in church, it's just not in Columbia, it's in business too.
All right, Doug, last question, go ahead.
Real quick, Mr. White, thank you for your service to the state of South Carolina. Could you please estimate, just in the past 5 years, what the amount of money is that you and or your firm have indirectly contributed to the general fund of the state of South Carolina?
Doug, $250 million?
Thank you, sir.
Wow.
$250 million. Oh, and Robbie, let me tell you this, when you represent the state of South Carolina, the deal is you have to advance all the money, and if you lose, you don't get your money back.
Yeah.
And let me tell you another thing about this, about Johnson & Johnson.
Mhm.
I was on the way to bury my daddy 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Okay. I get a call, and Johnson & Johnson had a contract with Marriott. And they called to tell me that our case that was gonna start in March, the Attorney General of South Carolina and my trial team that was coming in from outside of the state couldn't come on the premises of the Marriott Hotel. I called Jimmy Gibbs, because he had just bought the hotel. And I said, Jimmy, where are you? He says, I'm on the way to your daddy's funeral. I said, well, listen, you just locked me out of the Marriott. I called the Attorney General and I said, where are you? And he says, I'm on my way to your daddy's funeral. Okay.
Yeah.
I could not even go to my daddy's funeral, who was a man that I loved and gave back to this community more than anybody that I know of. It was in my family. There are other people that have given more. And Johnson & Johnson is going to lock us out of the Marriott in Spartanburg, right here. So let me just say this. I am proud of that.
Yeah.
I'm proud of what we did. We gave South Carolina money that they were entitled to, and they deserve that offset taxes.
You answer my question.
Okay,
I'm
but
satisfied. Yeah.
but thank you.
That's what I want.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Was the no tears for your 6 daughters, your 22 grandchildren, or is that what you use?
Well, okay. Let me just say this. My good friend back here a minute ago said, "Boy, you have nice thick hair," and I said, "Yeah, dial so." I'm down. My mother used to have ivory snow, you know. But anyway, dial so. But no, it's for my grandchildren. Thank you. And listen, thank you so much. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're moving on to District 12, and this will be the order. There are 4 candidates running for District 12. Senator Lee Bright could not be here tonight, but we do have David McCraw, Mayor Lisa Cooley Scott, and Attorney Scott